Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today I want to focus on the Special Operations Manual for Operation Majestic 12. Now, I've talked about this before, but I want to focus on a particular aspect of it, the aspect with regards to a contingency plan in the event that there's an event that occurs that makes the reality that there's an extraterrestrial presence here undeniable. Now, there was some UFO researchers named Dr. Robert Wood and Ryan Wood did a lot of research on this, and just to give you a little overview of it, how this Majestic 12 Special Operations Manual thing came about. Here's something that they wrote they have on their website, which I will leave a link to so you can check this out for yourself. It says here, people ask the question, how did the manual surface into the public domain? And the Special Operations Manual was mailed from Quillen's drugstore to UFO researcher Don Berliner in 1994 in the form of an undeveloped 35mm film. Upon development, it turned out to be a manual entitled Extraterrestrial Entities and Technologies, Recovery and Disposal, dated April 1994. Clearly, the purpose was to provide instruction to recovery units about the background of this program and how to handle the parts while deceiving the public that nothing important had crashed. Now, I went through this whole manual in an earlier podcast from earlier this year, but today I want to focus on one aspect of this document, which it talks about. Of course, the overall document is basically how this Majestic 12 and handles covering up things with regard to crashed flying saucers, recovering alien bodies, all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting stuff, and nobody's ever, there are a lot of debunkers and skeptics say that's fake and everything like that, but this thing would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to create. It doesn't make any sense why somebody would have hoaxed this. I actually believe that this document is actually real. Now, there's a lot of people who don't believe it, but I do. It's something I believe. But regardless, whatever camp you are in, one section of this states it's with regard to special or unusual conditions, and it states here in the manual, the possibility exists that extraterrestrial craft may land or crash in heavily populated areas where security cannot be maintained or where large segments of the population and the public press may witness these events. Contingency Plan MJ-49-04P/78, top secret eyes only, should be held in readiness should the need to make a public disclosure become necessary. Now, regardless of whether you believe in this or not, in this document, there has to be a contingency plan, right? There must be, in the event that something happens that makes it undeniable, there needs to be a contingency plan in place, so they know everyone's going to know what to do in the event that something happens, or at least have a very good idea what they're going to do. And what are they going to do? What is in the contingency plan? And when you think about it, you have to ask yourself, are they going to give us the whole truth? Like in the event something happens that makes it undeniable, say, for instance, some major metropolitan city in the United States, a craft crashes and there's bodies and there's, thousands of people that are in the middle of a city somewhere, and there's thousands of people with cell phones, taking live pictures of it. There's news media all over the place. It becomes undeniable. What does at that point? What does the government do after keeping this covered up for all these years? What is the contingency plan? Well, are they going to tell the whole truth? I don't think they will, but they're going to say something. Right, and I mean, I don't think they're going to come out and and say they know anything about alien abductions or cattle mutilations or anything like that. They're not going to talk about the scary stuff with it. They'll make a statement with regard to saying that, yeah, it seems like they're just monitoring us, looking at us, studying us. We've been aware of this, and we didn't want to. They're going to have to admit that they've been lying. Right, and that's fine, but they're going to, at that point, they're going to have to admit that that they knew about this, that they knew that there was an extraterrestrial presence here, They're just not going to tell the whole truth about what they know. That's what I believe is going to happen. But they're going to have to say that, and they're going to say that something to the effect of, well, they're these are advanced intelligent beings, and they're not they're nothing dangerous about them. You're going to be assuaged in that form. They're going to tell you something that's going to try to calm the public down, which they're going to need to do. They're going to have to try to calm the public down, because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be freaking out if something like that all of a sudden just happened. That's why that's one of the reasons I think that disclosure should have happened a long time ago, because then we would have been over that hump already. But now, if something like that were ever to happen, something goes down in some one of these craft just happens to crash in a major city, and everyone sees it, and everyone's filming it, and it's all over the internet, it's all over the news, right? Then it's game, set, and match. Okay, we got to tell the truth now. Now, they've lucked out for 75 years now, right? They've pretty much lucked out. This did not happen, right? This has been avoided for the most part. There's been a lot of crashes that have been reported over the years, starting with Roswell, and but that have been talked about, and there's all these other ones too beyond that, after that. But after Roswell, they learned a lot of lessons at Roswell, and then at some point after that, they had this Majestic 12 put together, and they had a special team called an OPNAC team that would go out and recover these things. But if something like this again happens, where it becomes, you can't cover it up, and there's no amount of lying or anything like that is going to save the day for the government, then they're going to have to go to that contingency plan. Whether this is true or not, whether you believe this or not, there has to be a contingency plan in place, right? Whether you believe in the Majestic 12 documents or not. Now, just to be clear, there are some Majestic 12 documents that I do not believe, but the early ones that came out, the ones that were leaked to some UFO researchers in the 80s, and then again in the early 90s to Don Berliner, I believe that those documents are real. But I think there's other things that that came out that followed that were leaked by to other UFO researchers later on. I think that they were most likely fakes. But there has to be a plan in place, a contingency plan, and some what's gonna happen in the event that one of these events happens. What happens then? So you would have to believe, right, that maybe presidents these days aren't told everything about what's going on with this extraterrestrial reality. They're probably briefed on a little bit of it. Who knows? I'm not sure. Nobody really knows what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, a lot of people say that they're not really told about it, because then it gives them plausible deniability when the question's brought up. But who knows? We really don't know. You had different presidents that are still with us, like Bill Clinton has made a statement saying that he looked into things like this and he didn't get any answers. So it seems like maybe some president, unless he's lying. I mean, of course, we all know politicians lie. And actually, the government as a whole, the Pentagon as a whole, has been lying about the extraterrestrial presence since 1947. So, yeah, I mean, people lie in the government about extraterrestrials. They just do, and that's a fact. But at some point, if this were to happen, if one of these events like that, as described in that contingency, in the event of a situation, that contingency plan has to be pulled out. Is it the president? Is he briefed on this? Is he already? I mean, what's going to happen? Is there a prepared speech? How does this go down? Like, it's going to be interesting to see what happens if this ever does happen. Hopefully it never gets to that point. That would be, because that would be like a shock. And in a way, it's actually good when you really think about it, that since 2017, since those leaked videos from the Pentagon, since they came out, so people have been thinking about this a little bit more, even those who really don't really care about UFOs that much, or even think about the actuality that there's actually aliens here. But at least they're starting to, they started coming out with that information slowly. I believe that, that was this whole purpose. The purpose behind this was a slow disclosure. I don't believe this whole thing was an accident, or, I believe that there was an effort, at least in 2017, early on, to, hey, we need to start letting this information out. because they realize in the government that some people realize in the government we got to let the world know about this for a lot of reasons. But hey, everyone has our own technology has been increasing over the decades, and now it's at a point now where something could happen and it's going to become undeniable, and we're going to look like big liars by at least starting to come out with it now. If something were to happen, hey, they could go back and say, hey, so yeah, we told you there was something up there. We saw something flying around. That's another route that they might take. They might actually just come right out and lie. They might say they didn't know anything about the reality that there's an extraterrestrial presence here. They might pretend that they knew nothing about it, and this is a news to them. They might act like that too. It's going to be interesting to see if that did happen, what they're going to say, how they're going to say it, how they're going to present it. I think that's a strong possibility. So either they're going to come out and say, yeah, this is a surprise to us. We didn't know. We as we told you, there's objects out there that we don't know about, and that's why we've been meeting with the Congress recently. Really, as far as we know, this has just started since the early 2000s. They're going to lie about that too, possibly. They'll say that since the early 2000s, we've been tracking these things. Like they'll forget about the history that happened before that. They'll forget about the stuff in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. That'll all be, oh no, there was nothing there. That was just, they might lie about that too. Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm just saying this is a possibility. And then the other possibility is that they come out and they tell a partial truth, saying, "Yeah, we did know about it, but we had to keep it secret because we were trying." They could say something like, "We didn't want to panic the public." They could just right out and say it. What's wrong with just saying that? They could say, "Hey, we know that there's some people out in the public that wouldn't want to know this. That this is going to frighten them. But now that unfortunately, now that this crash happened, well, there's nothing we can do about it. So we're telling you, yeah, we knew about it, but as far as we can tell, this will be the lie part. As far as we can tell, they're here. It's just they're not going to harm anybody. It's nothing to worry about. They're an advanced race. They're better than we are. And all this kind of stuff. They might pull something like that, and that's probably what they'll need to do actually, because a lot of people are going to freak out over this if that were to happen. But I really would be interested, to actually to see what's in this contingency plan. Exactly how are they going to deal with it? Does it depend on the situation? Is there different scenarios that they have laid out? Okay, in the event this happens, we're going to do this. In the event that happens, we're going to do this. Is there different things? Like you have to wonder, and there has to be one. I mean, anybody who's researched this subject knows that there's something going on, and there's an extraterrestrial presence here. So that means obviously it goes without saying that the government knows about this. They actually have to. I mean, if they don't, then we're in really big trouble, because a lot of us have seen these things. A lot of us have seen some of these the beings. So with all of that in mind, you wonder. Exactly what's in it. Like, how is it laid out? Like, what's the plan? Once that undeniable thing happens, and what is that undeniable? What would constitute an undeniable thing? Something crashing in the city, or somewhere even in not a major city. It could be a smaller city, but just so many people see it. And the way things are now with technology, I mean, it would become very difficult, no matter where something like this happens. Actually, it would be very difficult to cover things. A major event, a major crash, if another Roswell were to happen, it'd be very difficult to cover it up. I mean, now if it's in the middle of the desert, yeah, okay, that's different. Yeah, that could get covered up. And if there's only a handful of citizens that see it, well, yeah, you could shut them up. And if they'd say anything, they're going to look like nuts. You could do stuff like that, maybe. But as long as they didn't already film stuff or live stream stuff from the site of where these things happened. But if something were major to happen, or it doesn't have to be a crash, it could just that they land. It could just be that they land and they just some object might just land just to alert on purpose in an effort just to say to the world, hey, look, we're here and there's nothing you can do about it. And then they might just take off. They might decide themselves to let the world know that it's real. And even though right now, as far as I can see, this seems like they want to be secretive about this. They don't want their presence known. But hey, that could change. That could change. As I talked about in some recent podcasts, I think it's possible that they are here and they're waiting to see how we handle ourselves moving forward. I think maybe that could be one of the reasons why they're here. For a lot of reasons, they're watching us, waiting to see how we handle ourselves if any of us decides to use nuclear weapons against each other. And if that happens, well, then maybe they take over, because that would prove to them that we're a danger and we can't be trusted, and they can't allow us to keep advancing, because then we would pose a danger to other intelligent civilizations, including them, in the future. So that's a possibility also. But regardless, whatever the reason why they're here, I believe it's going to be interesting to see how the government deals with this if an event like that were to happen. Like I said, it could be a crash somewhere in a city, even a smaller city. It doesn't have to be a major metropolitan city, but if it's a major metropolitan city, like say New York or Dallas, anywhere, any big city, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Miami, if something like that happens, right, all of a sudden they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to, all of a sudden everything changes, right? The whole world changes all at once. Everyone's like, wow, right? And you're going to have someone stepping to a podium in Washington, D.C. somewhere and telling the public something. And whatever that something is in that contingency plan in those Majestic 12 documents. And again, like I said, even if you don't believe in those documents, there's a contingency plan somewhere in Washington, D.C. that outlines exactly how the government's going to talk to the people should something like that happen.